Right now we're in what I call the ancient Roman Colosseum stage. Everybody wants to go to the Colosseum and see a fight.
This has been a pattern now with Ted. He spent the last 2 weeks literally just making stuff up.
When radical Islamic terrorists wage jihad on the United States of America, the answer is not to tweet insults at them.
This guy, Cruz, comes out, well, I don't think he's going to win. This guy is so strident and so nasty, he's going to lose every single state. Then Bush, poor Bush, he comes out. He goes, well, I don't think that Donald Trump can beat Hillary Clinton, but I can. I say, well, why aren't you beating me?
Some of the sights and sounds from South Carolina, and actually we can take a live look in Beaufort, South Carolina, a forum ongoing. Donald Trump talking about the war, talking about ISIS. Just a moment ago said that 9/11 would not have happened if I were president. As you take a look at the latest polls out of South Carolina, the average of recent polls, the RCP average, you see Donald Trump up significantly. However, a caveat here, most of these polls happened before the debate, at least a part of them. We expect different polling numbers, or at least new polling numbers, in the next day or so. We'll have our own Thursday morning. Let's bring in our panel. Syndicated columnist George Will, editor-in-chief of LifeZette, Laura Ingraham, and David Gregory, former moderator of NBC's Meet the Press and author of the book, How's Your Faith? Okay, Laura, what about this? What's happening in South Carolina?
Trump's made a calculation that the only way to win this is to do what they did in the opening scene of The Godfather. You got to take out the other families. You got to get them in the, the revolving door at the altar and the phone booth. So he's just decided, I guess, the only way to do it is to really settle the score on Bushism, on globalism, trade, immigration, the war, and he's doing it in a way that is really strident and really offends a lot of people. But I guess he's banking on the fact that there's just not all that much affection for the policies of the Bushes, but a lot of affection maybe for the personality, the people, the patriotic side of the Bushes. It's a risky strategy, but right now in South Carolina, could it pay off? I think we're going to find out. But were all these policies popular? I think when the Bushes respond to this, they tend to go to personality. They tend to go to Donald Trump's a reality star, or he's not serious. But I think the debate about these policies is a healthy one to have for the Republican Party. Was our policy toward China good? Did it really work out for us?
However, the Republican Party, David, doesn't want to be relitigating the Iraq War,
right,
or those decisions then.
No, they don't. But the truth is that in a kind of ugly way within the party, Trump is forcing a debate that a lot of people are not having, which is, and I don't think he's putting it very elegantly, but what are the leadership lessons of the Iraq War? I'd like to hear Jeb Bush answer some of those questions, and I think the other candidates too, particularly in the context of how you're going to fight ISIS. That's a relevant debate to have, not the way that he's putting it now. And I mean, again, I'm with Laura. I think there's some calculation here of stridency and kind of tapping into this anger. Don't forget, we talk about Tea Party sentiment and all the rest. It was Bush who bailed out the big banks. So a lot of that angst, a lot of that anxiety, a lot of that anger starts under Bush, as well as, the extension of America in the Middle East and Afghanistan.
George.
David's absolutely right. The Tea Party was a reaction against, really, the spending by the Bush administration. So there's a lot of sin to go around here. Mr. Cruz understands that if you keep the bombs going off, no one will focus on any one of them.
You mean Trump?
Trump, sorry, yes. Trump, a few years ago, he said he had, when he was a birther, before he said Cruz wasn't eligible to be president, he said this one isn't eligible to be president. He says, I have investigators in Hawaii, and they're finding amazing things. Well, he never told us what they were because he'd gone on to something else by then. 23 days ago, he said on television, any day now, I will be announcing the senators who have endorsed me. No one has endorsed him yet, and no one remembers that he said that. There's one likely senator some people think would be Jeff Sessions, because he agrees with Trump on trade and immigration. I talked at length with Jeff Sessions today. He has no intention of endorsing anyone.
South Carolina, CNN poll about people deciding. Definitely decided 49%, leaning towards someone, 20%, still trying to decide, 31%. Laura, what's clear is that these early states, there's a lot of undecideds. A lot can happen in the final days.
There no doubt about it. I think South Carolina is a tricky place. It's a very interesting population along the coast, much more kind of establishment, moderate Republicans. There's a strong evangelical base. They had that Bob Jones University forum on Friday. Trump didn't show up. He didn't have anyone at his table. Cruz and Rubio were there. Carson was there. They think they can make something of that. But there also is a poll out there that says that most Republicans in South Carolina think Trump's going to be the nominee. So you wonder how much, despite his promises of things that don't happen, if people just get the sense that, look, Jeb carries too much weight of the past. Rubio maybe is a little too young. Carson is nice, but he didn't really cut through. And Cruz, might not catch on in other states, as smart as he is. So a lot of people might be making this calculation. He's probably the only guy who's going to win it. So we're going to throw in with him, even with all of our reservations. Again, I think that's what their strategy is. Remember, South Carolina, the Democrats aren't voting Saturday. I think Trump is going for kind of a general election play here, thinking he's going to pull some Democrats in, maybe on that Iraq war comment. And maybe some of them will show up to vote for him, even though a lot of Republicans certainly wouldn't have said it that way.
He clearly has a big lead heading in. I want to turn to the Democrats who are lining up ahead of Nevada. That's their caucus on Saturday. As they're making a play for the African-American vote, Hillary Clinton in Harlem, Bernie Sanders with another number of moves. But Hillary Clinton's husband, the former president, saying this about the genome and the first black president.
Steve Cohen's remark that I was just a stand-in for the first black president. I'm happy to do that, but you know what else we learned from the human genome? We learned that unless your ancestors, every one of you, are 100% from sub-Saharan Africa, we are all mixed-race people.
I'm just not sure how that plays.
My very considered response on that is, what is he talking about?
I don't understand.
Honestly, it just strikes me as weird, honestly. I mean, I haven't looked at the Genome Project in detail in a while. But, look, this is a bit of a problem with Bill Clinton riffing on the campaign trail. And one of the cautionary notes, though he's been more disciplined, it seems, is, I mean, the potential for distraction, if she is the President of the United States with the first husband, it seems to me is rather high.
But as a campaigner, is it a liability or an asset to have Bill Clinton on the trail?
I think it's an excitement because you never quite know where he's going to go with this. I think what he's saying is, and it's actually a truth, which is our genetic makeup is a really complicated thing after 200 generations. One of the four of us is almost certainly related to Charlemagne, and one of the four of us is almost certainly related directly to 20 generations to Charlemagne's groom. So what? What's interesting is that the Democratic Party makes so much out of race and identity politics. To have him come out and say, well, by the way, race is a pretty blurry concept.
And it doesn't really fit on a bumper sticker, Lauren.
No, it doesn't. I agree with David. I don't really even understand why he thought bringing that up there is going to help Hillary. Remember back in South Carolina in 2008, he made that comment about this is the biggest fantasy ever, paraphrasing about Obama. Hillary today was in Harlem and gave a speech about race, very emotional. She talked about privilege, that the white Americans, a lot of references to white Americans. It struck me as kind of odd. I mean, I know you have a black audience, but they're supposed to be unifying the country, yet it's always slicing and dividing the country up into this identity politics moment. And I mean, I guess we're all at a speech code forum at Harvard University now. It seems like whatever happens at the universities, George, you made this point, is trickling down and now into our political conversation. So it's about white Americans think this, black Americans are supposed to think this. And I thought we were all supposed to have our own individual thoughts, but maybe that's a fantasy as well.